So if you've been wanting to plant a garden, but you're not really sure where to start, there's so much information out there. It's very overwhelming. Maybe you can't even keep a house plant alive. You're in luck because this year I'm going to take you along with me as I plant my garden. I'm going to share with you tips and tricks that I've learned along the way and mistakes I've made that hopefully you can avoid. So follow along with me as we start this gardening season. Let's go. So this is my rock collection that I've been gathering for years now. This is not from this year, and I pull out all the big rocks because you want nice loose soil with as few rocks as possible. I have almost all of my plants ready to go. The next thing I have to do is sort of level out the dirt. As you can see, it's like super bumpy because I just finished turning it. So I'm going to level out the dirt, and then I'm going to decide where I'm going to put my plant. All right, so what I did is I dug 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 holes. This is where the tomatoes are gonna go. I don't really measure, I kind of eyeball it. You know, like these might be a little too close, but I don't know, I really don't care. Some people like to measure it out and really make nice straight lines. I'm kind of a go with the flow and, you know, trial by error type of gal. So, side note, these are grapes that a friend of ours gave a couple years ago when we planted one there, and it didn't look like it was really going to take for like a year or two, and now it's like totally flourishing, and I'm so excited because I've always wanted to grow grapes, and one of my most beloved uncles, who has since passed away, grew grapes, and I don't know, kind of reminds me of him. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully these will take. We also planted grapes in like other areas of the yard that got a lot of sun. So, you know, if this doesn't take, hopefully the otto ones will. So hoping to have grapes this year. So once your holes are dug, the next thing you want to do is before you put your plant in the hole is give it some natural fertilizer that helps get those plants started. So I usually do a mixture of manure, as you can see there, and then this whole thing here is compost, and it looks just like dirt, see? And what compost is simply is food scraps, leaves, twigs, things like that in cardboard or paper material. So this pile here I've been working on for some time. And so if you dig pretty deep, you get this gorgeous nutrient-rich dirt, which is made up of food scraps, paper, and leaves. And there's my dog. So not all of the compost has composted yet, but most of it has. So I'm going to take my manure, I'm going to take my compost, dig it up. Now, if you don't have compost, don't worry about it. For years, I didn't have a compost pile, so I simply used some gardening manure, and it worked fine. It was perfect. I started composting just because I wanted to try it. I thought it'd be something fun to do, and a great way to use kitchen scraps and things like that rather than throwing it in the trash or in the disposal. And I really like it. So I kind of mix the two together, and this is what I get. Next step is, once I've dug out my hole a little bit, I make sure there are no like rocks, big rocks in this hole. Rocks are like the bane of my existence. I hate them in the garden. You want your soil to be loose with as few rocks as possible. You want those roots to be able to go down deep without running into big gigantic rocks. So I kind of do this, loosen the soil up a little bit. I take my manure, compost, mix it in a little bit, and then I take my plant. This tomato plant is called a Sweet 100, which is essentially those little cherry tomatoes. I like to plant them in this corner here because they get really big, and then I can use the fence to sort of tie them and help them along. So once I'm done with that, I like to use my hands because that's how I find rocks, and that's how I kind of loosen the soil as I'm filling in the hole. Woo, gorgeous breeze. So I kind of pat it down a little bit. See, there's a rock. And then that's it. And I go on to the next hole, do the exact same thing, go on to the next hole, do the exact same thing, and then it's time to water. As you can see, notice I've made like a little bit of a well here, and this is so that when I do water, the water stays here and absorbs rather than running off. It's the best way to water without wasting water, which is a whole nother issue I'll talk about probably in another video. But anyhow, that's it. Pretty easy. Now that I've planted the garden all the way over there, I need to, well, I didn't finish planting the garden, almost done. I need to water. So I have my handy dandy water barrel that I always use before I go to the hose, because water in the water barrel I don't have to pay for, and water from the hose I do have to pay for. I love this water barrel. I think it's so useful. It collects rainwater, and you can piggyback water barrels one next to the other using that little drain there. And I really should get a couple more, because all you need is one rain shower and it could fill several barrels, which saves a ton of money if you're someone who has to pay for their water like I do. Because my garden is at the back of my yard, which is a slight slope, gravity does its thing and the water flows nicely with lots of pressure. So let's turn this on. Okay, and I always take, where is it, my watering can with me for overflow. I try not to waste any water at all, because where I live, water from the hose, the town water, is very expensive. So you try not to waste it if you can. Already filling up. Weeks. The hardest part is not breaking any of the plants. So here we go. I give it a gentle water. Go over to the next one. Give that a gentle water. And because I can't do this with one hand, I'm gonna turn the camera off and then show you when it's done. All right, the garden's been planted, most of it, and it's been watered. And you can see these like little wells that each plant is planted in, and it holds the water. So I have to go back to the store and pick up some more cucumbers, some more peppers, and a couple of other things. But for the most part, this is all done being planted. So we're gonna check back in a couple days, see how they're doing, see if the plants need water, and I'll take you along with me.